Broadcasting from the Unshackled studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.
Hello everyone and welcome back to WilmsFront for a featured interview show on this Thursday, 24th of November, 2022. Tonight we are broadcasting on the WilmsFront YouTube, DLive and Odyssey channels. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where there is less than 48 hours left of voting in the state election, with the polls closing and counting beginning at 6 p.m. on Saturday at the 26th of November, the official election day, though there is record amounts of early voting. I just cast my early ballot this afternoon. The Unshackled will be live at that time when the polls close, so 6 p.m. for our election night live stream panel, which will include myself, Nick Patterson, senior editor of the Unshackled, Damien Ferry, and also Richard Wollstonecroft, report from Tiger Mountain, and many more throughout the night, because we'll be going until we get a substantial result, and we'll be analysing and commenting on the results as they come in. Now, as I've stated previously, WilmsFront is an occasional show now, but tonight's show is worth the wait, as I've secured probably the most high-profile interview of my time at the Unshackled with the Supreme Leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, who is also running in the Victorian state election against Dan Andrews in his seat of Mulgrave. He's promising to be a better dictator for Victoria. One of his key promises is to create a high-tech missile factory in Mulgrave, creating 1,000 jobs. He created a missile test outside Dan Andrews' office on the campaign trail last weekend.
Live from Pyongyang, Mulgrave. Kim Jong-un ready to launch his missile towards the weapon. Whoa!
Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un, welcome to WilmsFront.
안녕하세요. Hello.
Now, your main pitch in the Victorian election campaign to the voters of Mulgrave in particular is that you'll be a better dictator than Dan Andrews. After all, I'll use a pandemic cliche, you are the gold standard dictator.
Yes, although Xi Jinping is also a great dictator, I think I'm the most high profile and the most liked out of all the dictators.
And your pitch is that why settle for a mediocre dictator in Dan Andrews when you can have the most revered / feared dictator in the world?
Yes, that is correct. And also, I would like to say it is time that the electorate had an Asian candidate with a big rocket to represent the area. So who better than me, the Supreme Leader?
That's one of your election promises. We've got your press release here that you're going to be setting up a long-range high-tech missile factory in Mulgrave, creating 1,000 jobs because...
1,000 high-paying jobs.
And also that you're going to be, you've said you're going to redirect no sponsorship for netball teams or any other Western type events. It's going to be invest in local Korean culture, bring it here.
Yes, I have to say, you Australians are too obsessed with sport. We need more funding for the arts, because through the arts, then you can push your propaganda. Just look at South Korea and what they've done with their boy bands. BTS, Blackpink, Psy. They've actually conquered the world with their music, their movies, and their Korean dramas. So I'm going to make a Victorian version out of that. We'll employ local artists, and we will put money behind it and promote it so that we will let everybody know where Melbourne is and where Victoria is on the world map. There are plenty of musicians, great artists in the area.
And most importantly of all, you're going to bring back the COVID zero policy that Dan was most famous for 2020 and 2021. And particularly, you're going to make sure that your friend Xi Jinping, all the Chinese consulate staff and associated members of the CCP United Front organizations in Victoria must take a daily rectal PCR test. And because that was of course they claimed that, I think it was at the beginning of 2021, claimed to us in the West that the anal swab was the most effective COVID testing method, but it never took off here in Australia.
Yes, well, I have tried the rectal test and it was very enjoyable. So I'll make sure that only the Chinese consulate and their supporters, like the United Front and all the politicians that support them, only have the privilege can enjoy a rectal PCR test. The rest of the population, unfortunately, sorry, you just have to go around spreading your COVID as usual.
I mean, obviously, Dan Andrews gave up COVID zero at the end of 2021, which leaves you and Xi Jinping as the only two leaders who are maintaining COVID zero by any means necessary. You did have a massive outbreak in North Korea back in, I think it was April. And in fact, you yourself got COVID, but managed not through any sort of vaccines or other therapeutics, just managed to, through sheer lockdown commitment, get back to COVID zero.
It's simple. We have a very great solution for North Korea. If you get COVID, simple. Instead of getting the shot, we'll just shoot you.
And so I assume you'd be reopening the Mickleham COVID camp if you're elected?
No, I'm just going to get everybody vaccinated whether they like it or not. So my policy is either you get the shot or you'll be shot.
But you haven't vaccinated your own population.
I'm not buying any of those American vaccines. We're developing our own. And since we have executed everyone who has COVID, now we're COVID zero.
Now, obviously, your friend Xi Jinping is having a bit of difficulty getting back to COVID zero with Omicron, and the people of the People's Republic of China, they're not too happy about the continuous lockdowns. They don't want to, as Dan would say, stay the course, and get the numbers as he said close to zero as possible.
Number one, let's stop calling this COVID and give it an honorable name. This should be called the Xi Jinping virus. It came because of the Chinese Communist Party, so they should have the honor of naming their leader as the virus. So it should be called the Xi Jinping virus from now on. And number two, the people of China shall do what they're told. No excuses.
Because wanting to be free, wanting to have human rights, it's not only selfish, it's stupid.
Exactly. You said it best. You said it best, comrade.
Well, I'm just getting inspiration from the various things that it seemed like Dan was communicating to us during those lockdown years.
Well, just let me just make this clear to the Victorian public. I'm not running on COVID or any of the lockdowns. I'm running because since Dan Andrews have let the Chinese Communist Party infiltrate Australia with the Belt and Road Initiative from China, as well as using Uyghur slave labor to build Victoria's trains, I figured out that maybe North Korea can infiltrate Victoria as well. So what better to have better infiltration than to have me run in your state parliament? I can get better deals for the Australian infrastructure, and our concentration camps and our slave labor are much better than that of China. They might have the quantity, but we do quality.
You don't believe Dan when he said he's got assurances from the CCP that our trains are not being built with slave labor. We're still getting our trains from China, but apparently we've got some sort of commitment that they're not being built with slave labor. Do you believe him?
He's an idiot because, oh, well, you know, in communist countries, you didn't get paid. We feed you and we'll house you. And by the way, just, you know, it's not a matter of who's doing the work as long as the product is being made. We deliver on time, and the quality assurance, I can guarantee you, extremely high. If the workers don't do their jobs properly and make a good product, simply we'll just take it up the back and shoot them. So you can be sure quality is assured for any infrastructure project that North Korea or China does. But we can beat China on the price.
Now, how are you balancing campaigning in Mulgrave and also being back in North Korea, firing your latest tests of? I've got to get there. It's a bit of a tongue twister here. Intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBM, which have landed just short of Japan, and also you've got a young family as well. So there's a lot on your plate at the moment.
The guy that is in North Korea that you see in the pictures, that's my body double. So he's just going around taking pictures. The real Kim Jong-un is here in Melbourne. I mean, who wants to live in North Korea? You can't even get a decent restaurant. Over here, I can get great Italian, great Vietnamese, and even great Afghanistan food. So I'm here, you know, trying to keep my physique up. As you know, the fatter the better.
Is that why in North Korea you're not seen for many months? There's always speculation that you're ill, but you're just down here.
Well, I'm traveling the world, but I have to say I really like Australia, especially Victoria, and that is why I'm planning to overtake the state.
And now I saw on Friday that after the revelations of the preference whisperer, how he was trying to have coordinate through group voting tickets a crossbench in the upper house that Dan could work with. So the Victorian Freedom Party and the Liberal candidate for Mulgrave, Michael Pastroni, called for the elections to be postponed. Of course, in North Korea, they forever postponed the elections.
No, that is incorrect. Every 5 years, we have an election, and we've done it. We figured out the best way to have an election, and that is to have only one candidate on the ballot. This way, there's no argument. And I get 99.9% of the votes. So, and we don't have all these election posters like you do have here in Australia, because all those posters are very environmentally unfriendly. We're talking about tons and tons of trash every after election that you have to toss out. So we've done away with all that, to save the environment, and just have one candidate, and everyone is compulsory voting as well, same as Australia. And I get 99.9% of the vote. What better system than what we have in North Korea? And that candidate should be me on the ballot. No one else should be on there, just me.
I mean, you're having to compete in Mulgrave with 13 other candidates. This is your how to vote card, and you put Dan Andrews last. Is obviously that's because you want to be the actual dictator, and so he's your main rival. So you got to make sure he's dead last.
Of course. I mean, this is the Australian system. I don't like it, but this is what I have to work with. But once I'm in power, I will change all that.
Now, at the just past federal election, you were backing Gladys Liu in her re-election campaign to be the Liberal member for Chisholm. You made a campaign stop for her.
Australia, thank you very much. Gladys Liu is the Communist candidate for Australia. I'm going to ask her.
Excuse me, you are going to have to leave. This is the most offensive thing I've ever seen in a campaign.
Excuse me, you don't tell the Supreme Leader what to do. I support Gladys Liu, she supports Xi Jinping, and now she's going to support the North Korean regime. So thank you very much, all for coming, for supporting this great candidate for the area.
Excuse me, who are you? What's your name? What's your name? Can we get a name?
Supreme Leader, Kim Jong-un.
What's your actual name?
It's Supreme Leader, but I'm known by my alias, Howard X. Okay? However, you can call me Dear Leader. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Who are you, sir?
Are you a union member?
It's not good enough. I mean, who do you represent? Who are you?
I represent the DPRK, the Democratic.
Sir, that's not good enough. Just tell us.
All right, it is good enough. Who are you? Who are you?
I'm Stephen Evans. I'm a journalist. I'm asking you, who are you?
Okay, tell me your family, where they live, and the routes to work, to and from work, okay? And we'll get you taken care of.
Okay, I'll tell you if you tell us who you are.
Who I am? I'm Kim Jong-un. Come on, it's pretty obvious.
You're not.
Oh, hey.
You're a
I
state
doubt
urchin.
it.
Tell us who you are.
I doubt that. Anyway, watch out. Thank you very much.
There was around about a 10% swing in Chisholm. I know that she wanted to get pre-selection to run at the state election, but wasn't successful. So you've had one unsuccessful campaign push. Obviously, you're running yourself this time. What lessons have you taken since then?
Well, I've realized that the Chinese Communist Party have infiltrated all major parties in Australia. I'm extremely disappointed in Gladys not winning the seat. So I decided to come and run as myself. And let me say to the electorate of Mulgrave, if you fail to elect me as your leader, as your candidate for the area, I will launch a nuclear missile strike on the area. So you must vote for me, or your election will be completely wiped off the map.
That's quite the ultimatum campaign pitch. I mean, what is Dan Andrews? His campaign is vote for me. The rest are all Nazis.
Well, let me tell Dan Andrews that sorry, I'm not a Nazi. I'm a far left candidate. I'm the communist. Don't equate me with those Nazis, okay?
Now, obviously, your friend Donald Trump has announced he is going to be running for re-election in for a second term in 2024. Was this in your meetup in Hanoi? Because there was a bit of I remember there was a bit of a confusion. They let your body double meet Donald Trump and not you.
Well, the thing in Hanoi was a bit of a misunderstanding, but we've sorted out our differences. I will be going back to Vietnam maybe in the next year when things quieten down. But that picture was taken in Singapore, the very first meeting that I had with my good friend Donald Trump. And we were just reading the book, The Fire and Fury, and I thought it was fantastic.
And you didn't mind his nickname, Rocket Man?
No, but just to state for the record, I have the bigger rocket. I know because I've seen it. It's not very impressive.
I remember when he was exchanging barbs with you on Twitter. He's back on Twitter now. He claimed that he had a bigger button and a bigger missile.
That's just Americans. They like to boast about their size. But we've got the actual huge missile. Actually, did see a couple of days ago when I launched one. So who are you going to trust? Your eyes or Donald Trump's word?
Now, another one of your nicknames is Big Kim, because, well, compared to the rest of the North Korean population, you are quite big. And there's been reports from North Korea that some of the citizens they eat bugs to supplement their diet. So obviously, we have organizations such as the World Economic Forum wanting us to adopt some of that cuisine as well.
Well, we have one of the greatest recipes for bugs and grass, North Korean style. So we can introduce some of those reforms in your restaurants and get them on the menu. It's good protein and it's very environmentally friendly, and all the vegans will love it. All the vegans are going to be eating this stuff, and I think they will be very pleased that no mammals will be slaughtered.
And one of Dan Andrews, his other main commitments is to, well, renationalize the state's electricity supply, bringing back the State Electricity Commission. So obviously in North Korea, everything's owned by the state. So Dan is obviously taking some, well, not just some inspiration from the North Korean economy, but also his friend Xi Jinping.
I'll just say this is one of the policies where we do have agreements on. Of course, you're going to nationalize. You can't be exporting your electricity overseas for profit. You're going to keep it here for the locals to use. And I believe that most Victorians believe that also.
Now, earlier this year, you did show off your softer side. You and Vladimir Putin helped Volodymyr Zelensky escape from Ukraine.
Yes, that is correct. Excuse me, just let me get Howard X on the call. Hello, this is Howard X. How you doing?
I'm good. You look similar to the guy that I was interviewing, the Supreme Leader, Kim Jong-un.
I know. I'm his double. So he has many doubles. It's very confusing to most people.
Well, is what lots of people want to take Kim out, so he's got to have all of these different doubles around the world to fool the various snipers and other people.
Yes, and I'll just say I'm happy to take a bullet.
Now, as obviously your real name is Howard X. Lee, that is how you're going to be appearing on the ballot. And
my real name is Howard Lee, but I'm known as Howard X. So I put the X there in brackets just so that people can look me up online and see who I am. But on the ballot, it will just be Lee Howard on the ballot.
And so you've been doing this for nearly a decade now, impersonating Kim Jong-un, and you're also a musician as well.
Yes, actually, I started as a musician, doing the gigs around town in Melbourne. And then I moved on to being a music producer for the group called Bossa Negra. I've received a nomination for what's the equivalent of the Chinese Grammy, called the Golden Melody Awards, as a producer. Didn't win, but got the nomination. But this career of mine has just taken off as impersonating Kim Jong-un. So yes, I've been running with it, and since then I've appeared. It's taken me all around the world. It's gotten me laid, and I made money. So what could be better than that?
It's using the capitalist system, which Kim Jong-un hates, to earn a living.
Yes, and the thing is that I'm learning the skills from the Chinese Communist Party. You can infiltrate this. You can use the freedoms in a democracy against them. And this is one of the weaknesses. So I thought, I can exploit this. And for the last 9 years, I've done pretty well out of it. And meanwhile, raising a lot of human rights issues, through a satirical way. And I think people are catching on. So I thought, since Dan Andrews is actually in my electorate that I've been living here since the 1990s. in this area. And since he's on the ballot, so I thought it's too good that I don't run. It's too good that, if I didn't do this, I'll kick myself. I'll regret this for not running. So I thought I had to do it. And especially he's such a bad candidate. Even people on the left and the unions don't like him, as well as everyone else on the right. So I thought it was just so stupid having Dan Andrews to run again. And I think the Labour Party could lose power, and either lose power or become a minority government just by having this one guy who controls his party like a cult, and much like the dictator. So I thought, I have to parody this. It's too good.
I mean, I stand with Dan people. They defend him no matter what. They do have a cult-like devotion, like there is. Well, the strange thing, these people are voluntarily part of this cult. They're not conscripted into it like the people of North Korea.
Well, the thing is that, once you have control of the media, and you only have at least the messaging, if you can control the messaging, at least with his own party, then you can control people within that party. And they're very outspoken. I mean, if this was in any other government, he would have been kicked out long ago. When the Labour Party discovered Kevin Rudd was a bit of a prick, and that they would not get elected, they replaced him with Julie Gillard. And I think, don't wait for the voters out to vote you out. You should change the leader because before they start to become arrogant and become a huge prick.
Well,
Power corrupts everybody, and that's the thing. He's been in this seat for 20 years.
I was going to say Xi Jinping, who first came to power as the Chinese president in 2013. Well, obviously China's not a democracy, but he didn't start off as a complete megalomaniac in the vein of Mao Zedong. He consolidated his power over his first couple of terms.
Yes, he's extremely smart and slick, and very slick. I'll just say sly politician, and he fooled everybody. They thought he was going to become. He was going to make China more democratic and open up. Nope, but he's done exactly the opposite. And we all have already paid a huge price for that. When the virus was first discovered by the Chinese Communist Party in December 2019, they tried to hide it and they tried to cover it up. When they couldn't cover it up, then they locked down the province of Wuhan. It was a really hard lockdown. But at the same time, they were letting people get on planes and take this virus overseas and infect the whole world. The reason that we've gone this 2 years of turmoil is because the Chinese Communist Party made it happen. They let it happen through their incompetence and just their sheer disregard for the rest of the world. So if you think the Chinese Communist Party is not going to affect your life, well, think again. The last 2 years of why you're wearing a mask is exactly this reason, which is why I'm running to make the point. I don't expect to win, but I'm running to make the point that this dictatorship from China is a direct threat to Victorians and everybody worldwide. But since it's a Victorian election, we need to make sure that there's no compromised candidates like Dan Andrews, who's in their pocket to be elected and control the state. Because if we let them do that, who knows what they're going to do next time? They might just say, instead of buying a port, they'll just say, we'll take this port. The port of Darwin has already been sold to the Chinese Communist Party. Maybe they say, we want your iron ore and we need your wheat. You either give it to us or launch a missile, or we'll invade your country 10 years or 20 years down the line. They're behaving exactly like Imperial Japan was at the beginning of the last century. So history is repeating itself. So I have to say, Australians, wake up, because this is going to be a huge problem. Him and Putin is going to affect everybody.
And you're not actually Korean. You were born in...
No, I'm Chinese. I'm from Hong Kong. I speak Cantonese. So This is one of the things that I think is a bonus that I'm running, because most politicians in the parliament are white. Every time they say something against the Chinese Communist Party, then they get accused of being a racist. Well, I'm Chinese. You can't use that with me, and I'm both Chinese and Australian. So I think people didn't realize, you can't use that shtick with me. I was in Hong Kong during the protest, 2019. I've seen firsthand what the Chinese Communist Party was able to do to Hong Kong, and take our freedoms away. And in fact, I was of enough of an annoyance that they decided to send 10 cops to my house and raid my apartment. But I managed to leave the country, and I'm safe here in Australia.
There are those, they've been popping up, those secret CCP police stations in Western nations.
Yes, and this is something you have to watch out. I mean, there was one. I don't know if they're still operating in Sydney, but we should do everything within our power to keep any of their organization that is connected to the Chinese dictatorship out of Australia. And that should also mean donations by organizations linked to the CCP. The reason why I targeted Gladys Liu was because she took $1 million for the Liberal Party from various Chinese organizations that is linked to the United Front, and the United Front was linked to the Chinese Communist Party. So, and in fact, she was unable to say that Xi Jinping was a dictator when asked about it. Right on TV, I believe the interview was done by Sky News, by Andrew Bolt.
Yes,
and she couldn't say that. She couldn't say that. It was amazing. So she was definitely compromised, and that is why I decided to, I had to create some good satire and remind people of it. And guess what? It worked. I don't know how many people I influenced, but I played my part in making sure she was not in Parliament.
I played it on my program because, contrary to what that guy said about it being the most offensive thing you'd ever seen, it was the most hilarious moment of the campaign.
Well, he was a wanker, so, and I think because he said that, and then he was so taken aback by what I said in response, it just created the situation, even made it more funny. And I actually didn't plan to go there. I worked out, I switched on the TV, and I saw that they were just round the corner from where I was. So I instantly, did my hair and just rushed out. I didn't even plan what to do. So, but I improvised, and it worked. It worked in my favor. I actually saw ScoMo getting out of the building. I missed him by like 30 seconds.
That's another skill that you have as an impersonator, is to when you're, because you've attended public events, be quick on your feet, improv.
Yes, and I actually would practice this by busking on the streets. And when you're busking on the streets, taking photos of people, which I get at like $10 or $20 for. You get to practice the banter. I mean, comedians would do stand-up in the club, but for me, it's on the streets and interacting with people. So that keeps me on my feet. And I actually haven't done that for the last 2 years because of the pandemic. But I'm slowly getting back to it. So I had 90% of my income cut short because all my film projects, all the commercials were just cancelled, and so it's been a huge effect on me, as well as every artist, actor, musician that you can think of. And that's why I put into one of my policies that the arts, they definitely need a boost. And the $30 million Dan Andrews has just came out with a couple of days ago, it doesn't go nearly far enough. And I feel it's just like he's doing this just because it's so close to the election. He needs to kiss the asses of musicians, just before the election. And I think it's kind of disingenuous. That's he's not giving us respect by doing that. $30 million is nothing.
Well, he's trying to bribe everyone for their votes in the in the last week.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to have, you can't just give out money. I mean, the money will help, but what Victoria should be concentrating on is actually investing in creating a product that you can sell overseas. I mean, in the 80s, you had Paul Hogan, you got the Crocodile Dundee, you had Midnight Oil, you had Men at Work, that was making waves all overseas, and people came to Australia because they heard the songs and they saw the movies. That's why people visit. This is called soft power, and the best country that actually has invested in the soft power is South Korea. All the boy bands that you see, every Korean drama movie, are all subsidized by the South Korean government, because they know by putting this out there, people will want to buy Korean products, and people want to go to their country and spend money. And it has brought in billions and billions of dollars of income for the country because they did that. So I have to say, all the politicians, they need to have a good long think about how they can promote Australia and the States in particular, because the state has a lot to offer.
Squid Game, one of the most popular Netflix shows of all time.
Yes, exactly. I mean, people want all those. Squid Game it's a very entertaining TV show about killing people, but that makes people more interested in Korean culture, and you got to use the soft power. And Australia has not invested enough in the soft power.
Well, Australia definitely needs to communicate that it's open for business again, because our global reputation was so damaged by the COVID zero lockdowns of 2020, 2021, that people don't know that finally we're fully open now to everyone, vaxxed or unvaxxed. And so, not surprisingly, people aren't coming back this year.
Well, I have to say the problem with that was the whole of Australia has been relying on so much just on the Chinese tourists coming over. And now China is locked down, and there will be locked down for probably at least another year or two. We have put all our eggs in one basket. We need to do promotion to the rest of the world and say, please also come here. This also extends to international students. We should also be marketing Australian universities and higher education to the continent of South America. We're actually quite close. It's not that far. It's maybe 10 hours plane ride. The same as for China. So why are we putting all our eggs in one basket? It just doesn't make sense. You need to promote Australia to the rest of the world so that we can balance out our reliance on China.
Yes, that's been another alarming development over the past decade, is that how reliant the universities have become, and well, at least now they're being forced to wean themselves off of the money that they got from Chinese students, and also for those Confucius centers that always popped up.
Yes, and that is one thing that I put on my press release, that you should not have an operation of the Confucius Institute in our universities. It would be like having the Hitler Youth having one of the branches in Melbourne. That's crazy, and it's just completely insane to me that they're still here. They need to be kicked out, and we've got to make sure that none of that propaganda organization is within the borders of Australia.
Well, it's been fantastic to chat with both the Supreme Leader and also you, Howard Lee. Good luck for Saturday. Also, everyone's will be focusing, I think, a lot on the seat of Mulgrave when the results come in, because, well, it's not just Liberal Labor. There's well, there's obviously you. There's also Ian Cook running as an independent. And of course, if Dan loses Mulgrave, he can't be premier, even if Labor wins the most seats in the 88-member House.
Just let me pitch this to the voters of the electorate. I have no chance of getting into Parliament, but that is not why I'm running. I'm running as a protest candidate. I mean, if the election was close enough that maybe if I can have an effect that I'll be the one costing him the seat, I think that would be the ultimate middle finger one can give to Dan Andrews. Exactly. So I will say to everyone, put me as number one, just to say fuck you to Dan. I mean, you can vote for the other people on the line, and I'm sure my vote will go to them. But at least put the one just to say F you. And if you want to donate to my campaign, go to supremeleader.me. I need money just to make posters. It's very expensive just making all the posters to put up. You know, I need at least a couple of thousand. And if you're generous enough, it will cost about $10,000 to rent a tank. So I can get the money before Thursday. I can rent a tank and just roll up to Dan's office or the polling station with me on top as Kim Jong. I think that will be very, very funny. The company that's doing it's called the Gippsland Tank Company or something like that. They're in Victoria, so I already checked out that I can actually rent a tank, and so I hope people can go to my website supremeleader.me and make a donation.
I'm surprised that that was available, that domain name, because that's a cool domain name. So supremeleader.me.
Supremeleader.com was taken up already, so I had to go with .me. I was lucky.
Oh, thank you for being on WilmsFront, and yes, like I said, all the best for the rest of the campaign, and I'm sure even after you'll be out and about again in between nations and North Korea as well.
Yes, if you see me, say hi, and yeah, we'll take a photo. And vote for me, and we'll make this kick that ass, hopefully.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
And I'm back live. So in the final week of his campaign for Mulgrave, the Supreme Leader managed to get the endorsement of anti-CCP activist Drew Pavlou, who made a stop by Dan's office.
안녕하세요. I am here with my friend, the Supreme Leader, Kim Jong-un. I'm here to support him in his independent run against Dan Andrews, because Dan Andrews signed Belt and Road agreements with the Chinese Communist Party. Dan Andrews knew that Chinese firms building Victorian trains were involved in Uyghur slave labour, and yet he did nothing to clean up the supply chains, using Victorian taxpayer funds to back an ongoing genocide. So of course I support Supreme Leader against Dan Andrews, and we're going to have one dictator. Why not have the full deal, Mr. Kim Jong-un himself?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Now, on a more serious matter, Drew Pavlou was told by the Australian Federal Police when he was in Canberra. He travels quite regularly, Drew Pavlou, in his anti-CCP activism. Howard Lee's Kim Jong-un, his election materials authorized by Drew Pavlou, who of course ran his Democracy Alliance at the federal election. So Drew was in Canberra, and the Australian Federal Police at Parliament House said that they wanted him to leave because of his notorious activism, and if he didn't leave, he would be trespassing, even though he was there to meet Senator James Paterson and Labor MP Peter Khalil, who are on the Parliamentary Joint Committee on Intelligence and Security. And the Australian Federal Police officer said, oh, it's come from above. I thought that the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Milton Dick, had the final say about who was allowed in Parliament House. I mean, he's there to meet elected officials. The Australian Federal Police are not elected officials. Now, also in Mulgrave, Kim Jong-un also ran into Barclay McGain, who is, of course, former staffer for former federal Queensland MP for Bowman, Andrew Laming. He is down here handing out for Liberal candidate for Mulgrave, Michael Pastrono. And so Kim Jong-un told Barclay what he thought of him.
You are a class enemy.
Now, on the latest polling for Mulgrave, now, Howard Exley said that he's not a chance to unseat Dan, but the independent candidate who is certainly capable of unseating Dan is Ian Cook, formerly, he did run a successful business, I Cook Foods, until it was shut down by Dan's chief health officer in 2019 when they were falsely accused of killing a lady at Knox Private Hospital with one of their sandwiches. And then one of the health inspectors from the city of Greater Dandenong found a slug on their premises during a health inspection and ordered them to be the council gave advice to Brett Sutton that I Cook Food should be shut down. It looked like the slug was planted there because a slug expert said it was very they didn't believe that the slug got there on its own. So this is based on latest exit poll for the seat of Mulgrave. So Ian Cook, 57.2%, Daniel Andrews, 42.8%, two-party preferred. Now, if that's replicated on election night, then that will be an incredible triumph for someone, Ian Cook, whose business was trampled, destroyed by Dan's government, to unseat him. And he's promised if he is elected to Parliament on a platform of integrity, accountability, transparency, the Parliament won't know what hit them. On the broader polls, so there was another Redbridge poll, which is a firm run by former one of Labor's former campaign directors, Cos Samaras, who's married to a Labor MP, so he's hardly has a right-wing slant. He's very objective, and so the expected result is close to a hung parliament, and they also have a catastrophic scenario where the coalition wins. But the most likely scenario is a hung parliament, which is, well, Labor would have to rely on the support of the Greens, and that's actually going to be my prediction for the election night. I think it will be a Labor Greens minority government. Greens will win seats off Labor in the inner cities thanks to Liberal preferences. It's clear that the Liberals, by putting Labor last, they're hoping that if they don't win, then they can force Dan into minority government. And given that the Julie Gillard Greens government of the federal government of 2010-13 fell apart and Tony Abbott won the 2013 election in a landslide, they're hoping that a accelerated decline of Victoria under a Labor Greens government, as if the decline of Victoria hasn't already been accelerated over the past 4 years, would tip Victorians over the edge to vote them in a convincing win in 2026. But there'd be 4 years of damage for Victoria in the meantime. But I think it's going to be an unpredictable night. As I've reminded you all, the Unshackled will be here 6 p.m. Saturday, 26 November, when the polls close and the votes start counting. So I hope you can join us. Tomorrow night, there is the second last Trad Tasman talk, which is at 6 p.m. Melbourne time on the Unshackled YouTube channel with Dua de Boer. We'll be catching up on the latest from New Zealand, including the proposal from the Ardern government on their hate speech laws, which it's interesting what they're going to be protecting and what they're not going to be protecting. So Tim's pink shirt is predictable. It's actually a red shirt, but it looks pink here. So thank you everyone for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my interview with both Kim Jong-un and his alias Howard X. Lee, and we'll see how he polls on Saturday. We'll certainly be watching Mulgrave. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to WilmsFront. Visit timwilms.com to view the archive of episodes, and keep visiting the Unshackled.net to view all our shows, and to keep up with the latest real news and analysis.